Εξομολογήστε το Κύριο ότι αγαθός, αλληλούια.
Ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια.
Hit the like family, share the link, don't be lazy, love you all, let's go!
Okay, so I want to talk about the fact of why the church cannot continue to do things as business as usual. Things are accelerating in the West. The decline of the West is accelerating, and the diminishment and the erosion of the church is advancing. Let me give one example. For every new baptized member of the Catholic Church, 6 people leave. The thing that is harming the church's mission the most are its structures. The idea of the parish system, of having different congregations dotted out and spaced out around the city, is spreading too little resource across too much geography. Any church, any army that recognizes that it is no longer effective should consolidate. Any movement that recognizes that it is no longer effective should consolidate. That's what every business does. It's what every army does, it's what every charity does, and the church should be the same. We have multiple problems in our churches. A lack of good leadership. In many churches like the Baptist Church, a lack of actual leaders that they can't recruit. In the Roman Catholic Church, a lack of priests that they can't recruit. They're having to import them over from Africa. And in addition to this, we also have a failing to hand on the faith from one generation to the next, because we are married to structures that don't work. We are married to patterns that don't work. Sunday school, for example, has universally failed to pass the faith on to the next generation, and yet churches persist in setting up youth workers and in setting up Sunday schools to go out and to teach the faith to children. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to have a revolution in the church about the way that we do church. And I want to bring out 2 changes that the church needs to adopt. The first change is that we need to emphasize in our congregations that it is the responsibility of the parents to raise the children in the faith. It is not the responsibility of the youth worker or the Sunday school teacher, but it is the responsibility of parents to do Christianity at home. And the youth worker or Sunday school teacher, their job is to support, enable and resource and train the parents about how to do church at home, how to be Christian at home. That's where you learn the faith. At home, over the dinner table, over the breakfast table, in the living room, not in the church on a Sunday, not in church on a Friday evening. We need to do things differently because our systems in our churches are not working. Religious studies academics demonstrate through their studies that non-religion, or the nones, is a much more sticky, intergenerational idea than Christianity. We need to identify why our youth are abandoning the church, and we need to plug the gap. And obviously I don't have all the answers, but one of the answers that it appears very apparent to me, in addition to the fact that parents are not raising their children to be Christian at home and doing church at home, is also the fact that when our children are becoming teenagers, we are not inspiring them to be proud of their Christian identity. We are not giving them reasons to be proud of their Christian identity. And so many of our youth, when they go into college and high school and are challenged by their peers, they have no emotional, intellectual or psychological resources to draw upon to resist peer pressure. Also, because of the next issue, too many of our Christian youth are growing up in isolation. They're growing up with only a handful of peers themselves. And that brings me on to the next point. The parish system has failed the church in the industrial age. And we need to abandon the parish system. We need to choose centres of concentration and consolidation, repurpose many of our buildings to be income generators by repurposing them as gyms or as accommodation or as business centres, and then use that money to fund the work of the church in more consolidated congregations that are better staffed because we consolidate the leaders in those hubs, that are better manned because the congregations have been consolidated, and where our youth grow up around not 5 or 6 other youth, but around 50 to 100 other youth of the same. One of the reasons why Christians are not finding marriageable couples is because our congregations are too spread out and they don't meet together often enough to facilitate eligible bachelors meeting eligible spinsters, ladies and gentlemen. Our problems are structural. Our problems are sociological. We don't need to change any doctrine of the faith or any value of the faith. We simply need to find ways to live it out differently in this new context. And let me be clear, considering the demographic changes that are happening to the UK and the pressures that we are already being seen applied to Christians in the UK because of those demographic pressures, I promise you this, that you will end up adopting the Benedict option, but you will either do it because of the short-sightedness of our leaders who adopt it out of necessity to survive, or you will do it because you listen to wisdom and you get ahead of the curve. If the church adopts consolidated geographical communities right now, it will allow the church to get on the front foot, to get back into the battle, to get back into the fight for this land. If the church refuses to adopt the Benedict option, it will simply disappear in the next 100 years in the United Kingdom. Now, I am not a fantasist. I don't think that Roman Catholics can set up Benedict communities with Calvinists. That's never going to work. But whatever denomination you belong to, let your denomination geographically consolidate. Let all the Baptists move to Manchester, and these are just examples, not suggestions. Let all the Baptists move to Manchester. All the Anglicans move to Canterbury. All the Catholics move to Westminster. All the Orthodox move to Stevenage. But let's consolidate geographically as a people of God for the purposes of God and for the kingdom. And the advantages of that will be that rather going to a church where there's just a few people going there, you will go to churches that are counted in the hundreds. And that will allow the church to better organize, better mobilize, and better resource its mission in the communities that surround it. That will allow the Christian church to be the biggest voting bloc, so that the world is confronted with the Christian vote. And Christian MPs being elected to Parliament upon a Christian agenda to represent Christian concerns. The Christians dominate the local economy, the local culture, and influence the pattern of life. And then evangelize around the edges of these consolidated communities and evangelize the non-Christians within these consolidated communities. It will also facilitate the discipling of our children who will be raised in a Christian community. It will also facilitate the creation of Christian families. It will also facilitate easier leadership by our leaders. Finally, before I take questions, the church needs a better caliber of leader. So many of our leaders only care about their individual congregation, and they don't have a bigger picture for the entire people of God. Do you think when that Muslim who attacked Chris of Speaker's Corner, do you think when he punched him, he was asking himself, is he a Protestant, a Catholic, or an Orthodox? Does he believe in free will or predestination? Does he believe in baptizing children or just baptizing adults? Does he take communion using leavened bread or flattened bread? These questions don't concern those that persecute us. And in the face of state indifference about increasing targeting of Christians and attacks against Christians, the only people that will stand up for Christians are Christians themselves, ladies and gentlemen. And that it will be harder to target Christians when Christians are the majority. And it is therefore something that we in the West must learn from Christians in Pakistan and Christians in Egypt and Christians in Syria and Christians in Lebanon, who all have adopted the idea of consolidated geographical communities. But they, because of the failures of their leaders, did this as a survival technique. I am suggesting that we do this as the first step to the remobilization of the church in the evangelization and the discipleship of the entire United Kingdom. And we should have the ambition of turning this United Kingdom once more into a Christian state that follows the laws of Christ.
Amen, amen.